In 2011, a team of researchers did something unusual. They pooled the data of 34,485 older adults gathered across 9 separate long-term studies and asked a simple question. What single measurement taken in a hallway in under a minute tells you the most about how long a person has left? Not cholesterol, not a blood pressure cuff, not a genetic test. They found it. And it was almost embarrassingly simple how fast someone walked. For every extra 1/10 of a meter per second in a person's ordinary walking pace, their risk of dying during the study period dropped by roughly 12%. Just from that, just from the legs. So ask yourself honestly, if your own stride said that much about your future, wouldn't you want to know exactly what it's saying about yours right now? Here's what's happening in your body right now, not eventually, now. After 40, you're losing between 3 and 8% of your skeletal muscle mass every decade. That rate roughly doubles after 60. But the loss doesn't happen everywhere at once. It concentrates in the legs, and specifically in one type of muscle fiber, fast twitch type 2 fibers. These fibers aren't just for explosive movement. They're responsible for postural correction, for the micro adjustments that keep you upright on uneven ground, for the strength that lets you stand from a chair without using your hands. Your mitochondria, think of them as the power stations inside every muscle cell, are supposed to replicate and replace themselves continuously. After 40, that replacement rate slows. You're not just losing muscle fibers, you're losing some of the power stations inside them. What you feel it as is harder to name. The stairs cost more than they used to. You sit down harder than you meant to. You get up slower, and you've noticed it even if you haven't said it out loud. And underneath all of that, something quieter. A thought you probably haven't given full words to yet. That this is just what happens, that this is the natural slope of things, that what's leaving is leaving for good. It isn't, is the part that should bother you. Sarcopenia, the clinical term for age-related muscle loss, wasn't given a formal diagnostic code by the US healthcare system until October of 2016. Before that, physicians had been watching men lose significant lower body muscle mass between 50 and 80 and documenting it as normal aging, not a condition to be treated, just time doing what time does. The system wasn't hiding anything, and it was built for something else. Medicine can diagnose what's broken and prescribe what can be patented. A pharmaceutical company can't file a patent on a standing posture that's existed in the public domain for centuries. A physician can't write a prescription for a practice documented in a martial arts lineage. That's not malice, that's just the shape of the structure. The solution existed, the structure wasn't built to see it. The Shaolin Temple has operated in some form since roughly 495 CE, 15 centuries. Every dynasty, every war, every political upheaval, including the Cultural Revolution, which destroyed much of China's institutional knowledge, the temple survived. And so did a body of physical practice that isn't mythology or ceremony. It's a lineage of applied movement, refined and repeated for generations. Among the texts associated with Shaolin practice is the Yi Jin Jing, the muscle tendon changing classic. Tradition attributes it to the monk Bodhidharma in the 6th century CE, though most historians place the text's actual origins considerably later. The attribution is part of the legend more than a settled historical fact. What's not in question is the practice at its center, a foundational standing posture called Zhan, standing like a tree, still taught in Chinese martial arts and Qigong lineages today. The idea underneath it, in the language of the tradition, was that qi could stagnate in the lower body, that the root of the body needed to be continually fed by circulation, not left idle. Before you hear qi and file this under mysticism, stay with it a moment. Practitioners in this tradition didn't treat it as supernatural. They described it functionally, the way a physiologist today describes blood flow, venous return, and neural activation. The prescription was never prayer. It was sustained, weighted stillness. Standing postures held for measured durations, paired with controlled breathing. Practitioners were trained to hold Zhuang for extended periods, sometimes 30 minutes at a stretch. Across generations, the practice endured because something in it clearly worked, long before anyone had the vocabulary to say why. They had the outcome long before they had the explanation. So here's a real question, and I mean it honestly. How do you explain a 1500-year-old standing posture holding up against modern exercise science? The tradition says qi stagnates in the legs when the root isn't fed. Strip away the word qi for a second. What if what they were pointing at wasn't mystical at all? What if it was simply blood flow and cellular signaling that nobody at the time had the instruments to measure? Think about what actually happens when you hold a standing squat. Thighs engaged, weight settled, nothing moving. Sustained mechanical tension like that activates mechanoreceptors in the tissue scaffolding around your muscle cells. That activation triggers a cascade involving IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, a signal that, among other things, calls dormant satellite cells into action. Satellite cells are the muscle's own stem cells. After 40, most of them are still there. They're just not being called. And the breathing the tradition insisted on that controlled pressure in the lower abdomen increases intra-abdominal pressure in a way that improves venous return from the legs. Blood that's pooling inefficiently gets pushed back up, waste clears, oxygen delivery improves. So, which is it? Was the root weakening a spiritual idea, or was it an early, accurate description of something we can now name in a lab? The vocabulary changed, the mechanism did not. There are 3 distinct biological events at work in a protocol like this. Understanding them doesn't make the practice work better, but it changes how you approach it, not as an exercise, as precision maintenance. The first is satellite cell activation. Your muscle fibers aren't alone in your muscles. Wrapped around them are satellite cells, dormant repair cells, whose entire purpose is to rebuild damaged tissue. After 40, the rate at which these cells get activated drops sharply. They're still there, they're just not receiving a strong enough signal. Muscle biopsy research on resistance training has measured this directly. When muscle tissue is placed under sustained load, satellite cell content has been shown to rise substantially within weeks, in some trials by 20 to 30%, confirmed cell by cell under a microscope, not estimated from how someone feels. Isometric holds, sustained tension without movement, are understood to produce this same mechanotransduction signal, arguably more directly than movements that spend most of their time in transition rather than under load. The second is mitochondrial biogenesis. You're not just losing muscle fibers after 40, the balance of functional to dysfunctional mitochondria inside them is shifting the wrong way. Less ATP, less energy for everything. This is a real part of what that 3 p.m. collapse actually is. Here's what makes this encouraging. A 2014 study out of Ball State University's Human Performance Laboratory put young men in their 20s and older men averaging 74 years old through 12 weeks of aerobic training, then measured PGC1 alpha, the protein that regulates the creation of new mitochondria, along with citrate synthase, the standard marker of mitochondrial content. Both markers rose significantly in both age groups. The older men's mitochondria responded essentially the same way the young men's did. Age didn't blunt the adaptation. Sustained muscular tension, including isometric loading, is understood to trigger this same PGC1 alpha pathway. Mitochondrial biogenesis doesn't check your ID before it responds to a real signal. The third is vascular remodeling. A 2023 meta-analysis by researchers at Canterbury Christ Church University, published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, pooled 270 randomized controlled trials, more than 15,800 participants, comparing every major exercise category against blood pressure outcomes: aerobic training, dynamic resistance training, combined training, high-intensity interval training, and isometric training. Isometric exercise produced the largest reduction in resting systolic blood pressure of any category tested, 8.24 millimeters of mercury. Aerobic training produced 4.49. HIIT produced 4.08. The mechanism is vascular. Sustained tension followed by release creates a rhythmic cycle of constriction and dilation that improves the responsiveness of the vessel walls themselves. On walking speed and lifespan, researchers pooled data on over 34,000 people over 65, tracked across 9 separate long-term studies, and the finding held up every single time. The faster someone walked, naturally, the longer they tended to live. For every small increase in walking speed, just 1/10 of a meter per second, barely a change in your stride, the risk of dying dropped by about 12%. That's not a fluke in one study. That's 9 studies, all agreeing on aerobic exercise and cellular batteries, the mitochondria. A research lab at Ball State University took 2 groups, young men in their 20s and older men averaging 74, and put both through 12 weeks of aerobic training. Then they looked inside the muscle cells. The machinery that builds new mitochondria, your cell's batteries, ramped up in both groups almost equally. Age didn't blunt the response. A 74-year-old's body responded to training nearly the same way a 20-year-old's did, on isometric holds and blood pressure. A 2023 analysis out of Canterbury Christ Church University looked at 270 separate clinical trials, over 15,000 people combined, comparing every major style of exercise. And the one that lowered resting blood pressure the most wasn't running, it wasn't lifting weights, it wasn't HIIT. It was simple isometric holds, like a wall sit, which dropped systolic blood pressure by about 8 points, roughly double what running or weight training achieved in the same research. We begin now. You don't need equipment. You don't need a gym or a mat. Though a timer helps, you need the floor beneath you and a wall behind you. That's it. A quick note before you start. If you have a cardiovascular condition, uncontrolled blood pressure, or any concern about whether standing isometric exercise is appropriate for you, check with your doctor first. Everything here is general information, not a substitute for guidance specific to your own health. The first component, the standing route, 3 minutes. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart, toes turned out slightly, about 15 degrees. Soften your knees, not bend. Soften. Let your weight settle into the center of your feet. Rest your hands lightly on the front of your thighs. You'll feel the muscle already activating. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts. As you exhale, lower yourself just 2 inches. Hold. Breathe normally. You're looking for the edge where mild discomfort begins, not pain. That edge is where the activation signal is strongest. Hold for 60 seconds. The tradition held for 30 minutes. You have time to build. The second component, the posterior chain press, 2 minutes. Back flat against a wall, full contact from shoulders to lower back. Walk your feet forward until your thighs approach parallel with the floor. Don't force it. Work toward it. Breathe into your lower abdomen, not your chest. That pressure helps push blood up through the deep veins of your legs more efficiently. Hold for 45 seconds. Release. Rest 30 seconds. Repeat once. Twice total is enough. At 4 weeks in, make it 3. The third component, the daily standing practice. 10 minutes every morning. The tradition didn't treat this as a workout, it treated it as maintenance. The body maintained is the body that remains. Each morning, before anything else, stand. Feet shoulder width, knees soft. Hands at your sides or held in front of your lower abdomen, palms up. Breathe slowly into the lower abdomen. Do nothing else for 10 minutes. Research on passive isometric holds suggests this level of maintenance is enough to sustain what the 2 active components build. You're not adding in this 10 minutes, you're protecting what you've already built. The transmission is complete. On satellite cell activation, muscle biopsy studies of resistance training have measured substantial increases in satellite cell content within weeks of sustained loading. In some trials on the order of 19 to 31%, confirmed histologically rather than estimated from performance. Isometric loading is understood mechanistically to activate the same mechanotransduction and IGF-1 signaling pathway, though a study isolating isometric training specifically in this way, in this age group, was not available to cite with confidence. So this claim is presented as a general, evidence-grounded mechanism rather than a single-pinned statistic. Here's what research and reported experience suggest tends to happen when this is done consistently, not a guarantee, and individual results vary, but a reasonable roadmap. On day 1, you likely won't feel much that's new, some leg fatigue, maybe soreness in the posterior chain by the next morning. That soreness reflects satellite cells responding to the activation signal. By day 3, something often starts shifting in how your feet connect to the floor when you stand. Balance can improve in a subtle way, your nervous system remapping motor pathways that have been underloaded for years. Day 7 is often where the mitochondrial signal starts to become noticeable, not as a surge of energy, but as an absence. The 3 p.m. decline many people have accepted as inevitable may be slightly less severe, just slightly, enough to notice. By day 14, if you're tracking your blood pressure, a downward trend in systolic readings is a commonly reported pattern, consistent with the vascular research above. Around day 21, satellite cell activity in resistance training research often begins reaching a more self-sustaining rhythm, the repair process starting to anticipate the next session rather than just respond to the last one. Stride and the unconscious bracing many people do on stairs may start to relax. By 30 days, research on this kind of training consistently shows measurable increases in type 2 muscle fiber density in many participants, not just maintenance, an actual increase. And unlike some fitness adaptations, this kind of loading tends to keep producing further satellite cell activation and mitochondrial biogenesis for as long as the practice continues. It doesn't plateau the same way. Again, this is what the research and common experience suggest, not a personal guarantee. Bodies vary. The people who first documented practices like this weren't interested in philosophy. They were interested in function, in whether a person could remain upright, capable and mobile through the full arc of a life, not just through its prime. So here's the real question underneath everything you've just heard. Is the body you have at 60 simply the one you were given, or is it, in large part, the one you've been building or letting go of morning after morning that without ever quite noticing you were choosing? There's a fear that lives under this for a lot of men, quiet, usually unnamed, that what's leaving has already left, that the version of the body you remember belongs to someone younger who no longer exists. The satellite cells are still there, the mitochondria can still multiply, the vessel walls can still adapt. The biology doesn't hold a grudge about years of inactivity. It responds to what you ask of it right now. So which is it? Drop awake below if you already know your answer. There's a companion practice to this one, what some traditions call the upper root, and what neuroscience today maps as vagal tone. It picks up where this one leaves off. Come back in 21 days. Tell me what changed.